So my today's topic is about modeling and predicting online vaccination use using bow tie structure. Some of you may have already heard my talk before, but it's actually before this point, it's actually like half done project, and now it's like fully done, at least for this specific project. And also I have finally got the paper published. It's torturous. Yeah. So I think judging from the titles, like online vaccination use, it's quite obvious it's based on some data set. So let me first introduce my data set. So it's actually a Facebook data set covering 2 periods. One is before COVID-19 and the other one during COVID-19. And for the sake of this paper, we mainly focus on the before COVID-19 period, but we also show in our supplementary material that the result remains similar for the during COVID-19 one. And these 2 versions of the dataset we obtained from these 2 papers below. It naturally comes in a network form. So this is a visualization of a single snapshot. The nodes here represents Facebook pages, and the edges represent like recommendations between Facebook pages. Because recommendation comes with direction, that's why the edges comes with similar directions. Yeah. And also we noted some attributes we can put for each Facebook page. So here we put firstly the fan size, that's the followers numbers of each Facebook page, and also the polarity that indicates the vaccination stance. So here we have anti, pro, and neutral, represented by red, blue, and green color here. So that's why you can see a lot of colors here. And we have some basic data description here. So previous study on this data set, part of it provides a fan size prediction model, look like that. So they are doing like a prediction for what will happen like maybe decades later, and the y-axis represents the total number of like vaccination, anti-vaccination supporters and pro-vaccination supporters, represented by red and green color, blue colors. Yeah, but actually this kind of prediction model, they disregard the network structure there. So that sort of like inspires us to search for some network structure to like study further about this fan size prediction. So finally, we picked the bow tie structure to study. And the motivation for us to pick this bow tie structure is on one hand, recommendation networks, as far as we can see, it signifies the information flow as well. So for example, if the Facebook page A recommend Facebook page B, so that suggests that Facebook page B expose some information to Facebook A of interest, and that's why we say it's an information flow network as well. And the bow tie structure, to some extent, zoom in the creator and receiver dynamics, which I will show you later. But briefly, it, for example, provides more roles. So for example, information magnifiers, listeners, and creators, things like that. And on the other hand, from the previous literatures, we discovered that polarized information often manifests different dissemination features. And like a very recent study on bow tie structure shows that it's very promising to use bow tie structure to capture these differences. But like this paper, they mainly focus on the metadata. So for example, verification status and bot detection in Twitter, things like that. So we're curious about what will happen if we put the bow tie structure in our study and do some like mathematical formula simulations, things like that. Yeah, so here I also put some relevant research about the bow tie structure. So bow tie structure is quite an old structure, to be honest, in network science, because it was very early discovered in 2000, and it was introduced in the context of World Wide Web. And in 2011, this bow tie structure was like extended, so that it looks a bit more, I don't know, big. Yeah, and then later it was I think it's 2022. It was started in the context of online social networks, where they actually study the recursive bow tie structure. What I mean recursive is just that they are doing the bow tie decomposition on each like subgraphs rather than the entire network. So that's indicated in figure C. Yeah. And inspired by the dataset research and also the methodology, we asked the following research questions. So the first one is about information flow. Whether online vaccination groups, that's pages holding the anti-vaccination, pro-vaccination, and neutral viewpoints, exhibit different bow tie structures, and how can we interpret in the context of information flow? And on the other layer, we noticed that because we are interested in the fan size variations, so here we put it to be in more or to be opinion dynamics. So we are saying whether this kind of like differences captured by bow tie structure can help predict the online vaccination views quantified by the fan size page variation. Yeah, so that's why I put the results part to be like 2 sections. So the first part is about information flow. So the basic result looks like this. So as you can see on the left-hand side, we call it West-in group is because we are doing like extracting the subgraphs of each vaccination groups. So for example, you can see that anti pages are put together and also for pro and neutral. And on the right-hand side, we firstly detect the community detections stuff and put all the pages that are closely connected to each other together and do the bow tie decomposition. And the difference between this within group and the cross group is that within group, we mostly monitor the information flow within pages sharing the same vaccination stains. And a cross group is like a cross group, namely, mostly cover anti to neutral and pro to neutral, things like that. Also the other way around. Yeah, so upper panel and lower panel shows the bow tie detection results. So for example, if you look at the Sankey diagram here in the corner, and then you can see that here represents the anti-vaccination pages, the percentage of them being assigned as SCC in and out pages. That signifies, yeah, information magnifiers, listeners, and the creators, and also on the left-hand side, it represents the February snapshot, and on the right-hand side is October, and both of them are in 2019. And the main result that we can summarize from these 2 figures are that we observe that anti-vaccination pages exhibit large out. That means like anti-vaccination pages, they tend to generate a lot of information. And on the other hand, pro-vaccination, they maintain to have a large RCC, that's information magnifiers. And these results are kind of like robust, both in terms of like retaining similarly in February snapshot and October snapshot, but also that this result remains stable in the after COVID period as well. And for the neutral pages, it's quite inconsistent, so that you can see this panel, they have a large others component. That means the bow tie structure is not like informative. And on the other hand, when we account it for like interacting with anti and pro pages, they have more informative structure. So it's quite interesting that we actually did some comparison for this bow tie structure analysis and with the previous study on the same data set. So it turns out that there are some similarities. So this also represents like bow tie structure are informative to some extent. So for example, anti-pages, they tend to generate a diverse range of narratives when they are doing the metadata study. So for example, they tend to blend topics such as safety concerns and conspiracy theories. And on the other hand, pro pages actually is very interesting that they found out pro pages are more centralized geographically. And the neutral pages, mostly they are like about parenting and pets pages. And that's probably why like vaccination views is not their main focus. That's why the information, the bow tie structure is not that informative there. And next, we move on from information flow to opinion dynamics to see whether this kind of bow tie structure can help predict the opinion dynamics here. So this actually comes with a key assumption that we exclusively perform the predictions on anti and pro-vaccination pages and excluding the neutral pages. And that's mainly because the neutral pages, as I mentioned before, more about parenting and pets, things like that. And we believe the recommendations from the vaccination views pages are not that influential to them. So for the opinion dynamics prediction, we actually put it into two models, one about machine learning and the other one about mechanics simulation. The machine learning model is just as a basic model to show whether the recommendations there are good enough for us to predict the opinion dynamics there. And on the other hand, we notice that machine learning model may not be insightful in explaining whether the bow tie structure can predict the opinion dynamics. So that's why we put a mechanics simulation there to add more explanations, things like that. So first, let's take a look at the machine learning model. So actually, the first question that we ask is that whether recommendations can predict the fan size variations. Is it enough? Actually, we notice that recommendations are like, if a Facebook page A receive a lot of recommendations from other Facebook pages, then that means their fan size is likely to increase. But if a Facebook page, they don't really receive many recommendations, this doesn't necessarily mean their fan size will drop. So this kind of like a thing is actually verified in our data sets through a simple logistic model. So here we are putting all the pages that have their fan size increase to be expanding and encoded by 1. And then all the remaining pages are like non-expanding ones and encoded as 0. And then we simply put all the relevant features in the network so that we can see whether we can do the prediction there. So the results are like the probability for us to capture the pages that are expanding is like around 83. So you can see it's quite a high probability. On the other hand, when we try to predict the page to decrease, so the probabilities are around like 50%. So it's quite low. So I think this confirms our sort of like priori that we can predict the fan size increase better compared with the fan size decrease. And the support vector regression and random forest regression are just predicting to what extent the fan size increase and decrease, like maybe 10 fan size increase and 100 fan size increase, things like that. To save time, I won't explain the details here, but the conclusions remain similar with the logistic regression model. Because our main focus in this paper is that we want to study whether the bow tie structure can help predict this opinion dynamics. So that's why we put some features about bow tie structure there. So that's within group bow tie and across group bow tie. And we studied the correlation coefficient and mutual information between the response variables and also all the features there. And because we are also doing the machine learning models, that's why we finally did sequential feature selection so that we can see what is the optimal set of the features when we do the machine learning model prediction. So it turned out that both within group bow tie structure and across group bow tie structure, the features there sort of like outperform other features, maybe not that uniformly, but so for example, for the support vector regression, when we do the feature selection, then you can see that out of like 50 rounds of feature selection, 34 times of the within group bow tie structure were selected, and 36 for the case of the across group bow tie structure. So so our main conclusion there is that features about bow tie structure helps us in predicting the online opinion dynamics. So next, we move on from the machine learning model to mechanic simulation and to see whether we can explain it in a better way. So the main model here, we actually simulate the information flowing inside the entire network to be like a virus, and that's why we put an SIAM model there. So we borrow it from the epidemiology and to see whether like we can see whether bow tie components they tend to generate more information pieces. Maybe compared with like other components, things like that. So I have the brief explanation for the SIAM model here. But I don't know whether I have enough time to explain it, but the basic idea is that for a single piece of information flow, we put it to be like from a specific page. And then start with only the initial page infectious, and then we let it flow and until all the pages that are recovered, and that's what we say, the information are aware but no longer transmitting. So that signifies like the total information flow terminated, and the total number of folders influenced by this information piece, we put it as the influence of the information initializer of that page. And there are some parameters involved inside the transmission rate and recovery rate. And for the focus of this research, we put it to be like fixed values, but we also show this result remain robust across different choices of the parameters things. So here on the left-hand side, it represents the within group bow tie structure result, and on the right-hand side, it signifies a cross-group bow tie structure result. So for each panel here, you can see there's a square, and the x-axis and y-axis represents let's put it to be like probabilities of it in generating, or the tendency of it in generating information pieces, compared with what happens in the remaining bow tie components that are not involved in these two axes. So this is the case for the cross-group panels. So the main conclusion that we get here is that you can see the patterns here when you compare the within group and the cross group are different. So the conclusion that we get from here is that for the within group panel, we discover out pages, they tend to generate more information pieces that are influential in recruiting the fan size. And on the other hand, for the cross-group bow tie structure, the Mathsys pages tend to generate more information pieces that can recruit the neutral pages, things like that. Neutral pages followers, things like that. So this suggests a possible scenario that out pages, that information creators often generate innovative content that captures the interest of like-minded users and potentially inspire the content in SCC pages, while SCC pages, that's information magnifiers, amplify certain mature content across group, targeting on the neutral pages. And finally, there are some takeaways. Because for this paper, we sort of like analyze through two aspects. One is the aspect of the bow tie structure, and the other one is the online vaccination views, so that we can have different information from each perspective. So in terms of bow tie structure, we actually showcase that bow tie structure is helpful in distinguishing information dissemination patterns across different vaccination groups. And it also helps predict the opinion dynamics inside the entire online vaccination networks. On the other hand, from the side of the online vaccination views, we actually provide a more optimistic picture compared with the common literatures. We say that anti-pages have more tendency in generating information and attract fans from other anti-pages only, but not really from the neutral pages that much. And pro pages are good at circulating information and then recruit fans from neutral pages on the other hand. Yeah. And finally, there's the QR code to the paper if you are interested. Yeah, thank you.